things get better or worse, usually worse. And therefore we have nostalgic feelings about the past when we were younger, but in the present, in the older age, there's a lot of difficulties, and then there's the specter of death also. So there's anxiety and fear with the passage of time. But in the spiritual world, there's the eternal present. So one notices it by the fact that the ecstatic relationships and pastimes that one has with Krishna and his devotees never end. In fact, they get better and better, and there's an infinite, unending variety of these delectable relationships. So here we see something completely different than what we experience in the material world. And when Krishna appeared in the material world 5,000 years ago, he reenacted many of those transcendental activities that he's engaged in all the time in the spiritual world. He enacted them in Vrindavan, which is like 90 miles south of Delhi. And he did this so that people can have an idea, a taste for transcendental relationships as opposed to the mundane and often sordid relationships that we have in the material world. So it says one of the attributes of pure ecstatic love is that one becomes infused with supreme longing and prays for the direct audience or direct vision of the Lord, of Krishna. And one's anticipation or expectation of seeing and meeting with the Lord is even more intense than being with the Lord in proximity. So this is called vipralamba bhava, this very intense longing to be able to see the Lord, to be able to relate to the Lord in an intimate way through servitorship or friendship or parental relationship or conjugal relationship. These are the four types of ecstatic, intimate relations that one can have with Krishna in the spiritual world and also in the material world. It doesn't matter because devotional service is eternal whether you perform it in the material world or in the spiritual world. And as we said, even people who are in hell, they can also engage in Krishna consciousness, as opposed to what the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims say, that you go to hell, you're finished. No. Krishna consciousness is universally applicable, whether it's in heaven or hell or on the middle planets like the earth or in the spiritual world. So, there's a rarity, there's something very, very precious and unique in having Shakshat Darshana, or transcendental Darshana of the Lord, or Bhagavan Darshana, to be able to see the Lord in person. And there's and one can only do that by engaging in pure bhakti, unalloyed bhakti, just like Satyavrata Muni, when he says, I'm not interested in being liberated. I don't care if I stay in the material world or if I'm in the spiritual world, but I must pray to always be engaged in the service of the Lord, whether it's in the material world or the spiritual world, and exchange loving servitorship or service to the Lord. So this is unalloyed pure love, where the devotee does not expect any return. Aslishtava padaratam pinastamam adarshanam parmahato karutuvai yata tata vavidatulam pato mat prananatas eva napuraha. Lord Chaitanya is saying, I do not want, oh, my dear Lord, you're completely free to do anything you want with me. You can embrace me in a loving exchange, or you can crush me by your embrace. You're free to do anything you want with me, But I will always remain your devoted and unalloyed devoted servant, and always offer my services to you for your pleasure. So this is called unrequited love. In other words, he's not asking for any return from Krishna. He simply wants to offer himself or herself and please the Lord in any way the Lord wants to be served. So this is a very special thing, because in the material world there's a principle. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. You don't scratch my back, I won't scratch your back, right? But here in the spiritual world, the devotee is not waiting for anything in return from the Lord, such as benediction of merging into the impersonal Brahman effulgence, or going to heavenly planets in the material world for enhanced sense gratification and duration of life, or to go back to the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha, and have eternal life with Lord Narayana in the Vaikuntha planets. He's not asking for any of those things. Na danam, na janam, na sundaram, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Manushya partha sarvasa. In other words, the devotee says that na danam, na janam, na sundaram. I don't want to have any amount of wealth. I don't want to have any partners or victims for my sense gratification, and I don't want to have any followers or disciples or a huge family with a lot of sons. Basically, he's saying, and I don't want liberation either. I simply want to always be engaged in your service, whether it's in hell, whether it's in the middle planets, whether it's in the higher planets, or even in the spiritual world. I simply want to be engaged always in your service, Krishna. So this is a rare thing. Most people never get to this point of unalloyed devotional service, because everyone has personal demands. Just like if Microsoft announced, from today on, we're not going to pay our employees 1 penny, and please work your butts off to help Microsoft get rich. So what would happen if the CEO, if Satya announced that? Well, everyone would leave right away, right? But not in the spiritual world, not because in the spiritual world and in the material world, people who love Krishna are not asking for anything in return. There's no bunya business with Krishna. There's a saying in English, tit for tat, or a quid pro quo, as they say in Latin. You know, I'm going to do this, but I want to get this in return. So this is unalloyed love. So it says this pure love in devotion to Krishna is verily the only means for attaining his darshan, his vision, his personal company. And this is in the Bhagavad Gita also, Bhakti Yoga Abhijananti Yavanyas-chasmi Tattvata Tato Mam Tattvato Gyatva Vishitetad Anantaram. Krishna says in 18th chapter, 55th verse, that I can only be attained by pure devotion. So, pure devotion means I don't want any wealth, I don't want any partners for sense gratification, I don't want any disciples or a large family or anything like that, and I don't want really liberation from the material world to the spiritual world. I simply want the devotional service of the Lord. And in return, the Lord says, yes, but I can only be attained by pure devotional service, not mixed devotional service. Mixed means half the time one chants Hare Krishna, the other half they are doing nonsense things. No. One has to follow all the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga. And in the beginning, it's called sadhana bhakti, following the rules and regulations. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and then always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the mantra of these three words, Hare Krishna and Rama, put together mean, dear Lord, dear Radharani, Krishna's eternal consort, dear Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always protect me so that I can always serve you. Or please protect me so I can always serve you. So, therefore, there are four don'ts and four do's, or four yamas and four niyamas. And if one follows the fourth, avoids the four things that we shouldn't do, and does the four things that we should do, such as always chanting Hare Krishna, eating only prasadam, or food offered to Krishna, and hearing regularly the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and regularly coming to the temple and performing seva or service, one is protected by the mercy of Krishna, and one is free from the influence of the three modes of material nature, and time becomes a friend rather than an enemy, and one is no longer disturbed by adi atmika, adi bodhika, adi daivika, the three types of miseries caused by this body, miseries caused by other persons, miseries caused by natural cataclysmic events, and therefore one is free from lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy, and one therefore is free to engage full-time in Krishna's service without any remorse or any hiatus. So here it says that this is the only means to attain Krishna. It's impossible by any other method, Hatha Yoga or Kriya Yoga or Jnana Yoga or mystical yoga. Without bhakti, none of those yogas will take one back to Godhead or to Krishna. So when one engages in reverent prayer directed toward pleasing the Lord, not getting anything from the Lord, but pleasing the Lord, and if one receives the benediction of actually seeing the Lord, well, actually we're seeing the Lord right now here in the form of the deity. So no one can say, Arjuna was luckier than me, he could see the Lord. No, you can see the Lord right now. The deity is non-different than Krishna. If we have material desires, then when we look at the deity, we just see marble or granite. But if our desires are to please the Lord, we actually experience the presence of the Lord in front of our eyes and our ears and so forth. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So if we have any affection for Krishna, then we actually see the deity. And if we have no affection, then it's not pertinent to our life, seeing the deity. Real devotees and the real Vedic culture as it was practiced from ancient times to modern times, seeing the deity every day, usually once, twice, or even three times a day, is essential. A person cannot have a complete day without seeing the deity and bowing down, offering some gift to the deity, and praying to it's called murti. Nowadays, modern Hindus usually refer to the deities as idols. They're not idols. There's a difference between an idol and a murti, or a deity. So actually it's insulting to call the deity of Krishna an idol. You want an idol, you go to the Bellevue Library, you'll see an idol of a Gandhi outside in the freezing cold with pigeons passing stool on him. Right? That's an idol. But the deity is non-different than Krishna, especially because of the pran pratishtha ceremony that was performed to establish the deity, where we invite Krishna to reside in this form made of marble or granite or even paint or clay or even earth. And Krishna, if he deigns to come, then we treat the deity like Krishna's presence. We bathe the deity every day. We wake him up and wake him and her up in the morning, and We offer them fresh flower garlands, not plastic flowers. Sometimes people criticize us. Oh, Prabhu, you're wasting so much of the temple's money. I said, really? How's that? Well, you can just put flowers in them once a year, plastic flowers from Taiwan or from China, and you're giving this big prasadam feast cooked in ghee. You're wasting money again. I said, really? What should we do? You just give a little piece of mystery. It only costs pachas paisa. That's all. That's what they do in India. They just give a little bit of pachas, a little bit of mystery. I said, you have no understanding of God. So what do you mean? Just because you want to waste Krishna's money, you're trying to criticize me? I said, no. I'm just telling you the truth. You have no understanding of God. If you think that we should put plastic flowers and buy mystery and offer that as prasadam, you have no standing at all spiritually. So unfortunately, this is the mindset of many people. And usually they're Hindus who eat meat. 50% of the Hindus eat meat. Another 25% won't eat meat at home. They'll eat it outside of the home in the hotels and restaurants. So there are only maybe 25% of Hindus that are actually vegetarians. So that eliminates them. In fact, there's no difference between the Muslims and the Hindus. They both eat meat, at least 50% to 75%. So the difference is understanding the difference between a deity and an idol. That's the beginning of the understanding. And understanding the difference next between your eternal soul and your temporary material body, which is always changing. That's another step toward understanding spiritual reality. There was once an imam that came to the imam of the Muslim mosque in Redmond, and I invited him to an interfaith discussion, and so he came and he was downstairs, and he came a little early. He said, "So can I come up to your temple?" I said, "You really want to go into the temple?" I said, "Usually when Muslims come to the temple, they don't want to see our deities." He said, "No, I want to see." I said, "Okay, come on." So he came up here. So he was looking. He said, "Oh, so you're worshiping cows?" Because he saw the 2 cows. I said, "No, we don't worship cows." "Well, how come they're up there?" He said. I said, "Because Krishna loves cows." He said, "Oh, so you're not worshiping them?" I said, "No, we worship God. We don't worship cows. But we respect cows because Krishna loves them. He's a cowherd boy himself." He says, "Oh," he says, "so then you're worshiping idols?" I said, "No, they're not idols." He says, "What do you mean they're not idols?" I said, "Wait a minute. Let me ask you a question, and then I'll answer your question." He said, "Okay." I said, "Do you take the Quran into the toilet when you pass stool?" He said, "What? My God," I said, "Allah, what are you saying?" I said, "I just asked you a question. Do you take the Quran to the toilet when you go past stool?" He said, No, of course not." I said, "Why not?" I said, it's just like cardboard and paper and with ink." He said, No. He said, "Because Allah's words are written in the ink on the paper." I said, "So, now you understand the difference between a deity and an idol." He said, "No, I don't understand anything. What do you mean? How can I understand?" I said, "No, you treat ordinary paper and cardboard as a holy thing because the words of Allah are written on it. And we accept the explanation in the Vedas of the form and physical features of Krishna. And when we make that form in marble or granite, and then we perform what's called the Pran Pratishtha ceremony, then where we invite the Lord to come and reside in the deity form, then it is no longer a statue or an idol. It actually is the form of God to help us mortals who have zero spiritual vision to be able to see the form of the Lord and to serve Him. And that's what we do. We offer real flowers, we offer food 6 times a day, arti ceremony 6 times a day. And if we can worship the deity properly, then God blesses us and gives us the vision to see that it's not simply a static form, but it actually is the form of the Lord. And there are many histories in the Vedas of deities that actually spoke to their worshippers and actually and had a relationship with their worshippers. There's a history of the Shakshi Gopal deity that actually walked with this young Brahmana boy from Vrindavan all the way to Rimuna in Orissa. And I said, there's many histories of this. And so he didn't say anything after that. So, but he understood something. He understood something because I gave him a practical example that they're also doing the same thing, like accepting this thing made out of paper and cardboard as being the holy word of God. And therefore they don't take it in the toilet and they venerate it, right? Okay, so here the Satyavata Muni is praying to be able to see the Lord in real time. And he's feeling the agony of separation from the Lord because he wants to have this darshan. And with a sense of apprehension, he is expecting at any moment to see the Lord. So for such a devotee with such feelings, the Lord does reciprocate. And this is one attribute or special feature of what's called prema bhakti, or pure devotion for the Lord. And the only means is through pure devotion that one will be able to see the Lord. Then, this is being declared the case, then how can it be possible to accomplish such a lofty desire, especially for people in the material world, because we came here having walked away from God originally, turned our back to him, and tried to become little gods in the material world, but we become full of lust and anger and greed and so forth. So we are offenders. So how can an offender have the darshan of the Lord? And the answer is that Krishna's quality, a special quality of the Lord, is Bhakta Vatsala. He's the friend of his devotees, and he has great affection for his devotees. So because of that, because of the unalloyed service to the devotees and their love and affection for the Lord reciprocates with such all-encompassing love and devotion, and he makes the impossible possible. He makes the impossible possible. In order to resolve this, Satyavata Muni emphasizes the fact that he does not want liberation or any kind of quid pro quo, or, I do this, you give me that. He's simply satisfied by contemplating always the Lord, and always aspiring to see him and being satisfied simply by the devotion for the Lord. So this point is very important, because at least three times, he rejects any possibility of liberation from the cycle of birth and death, because he's perfectly satisfied serving the Lord. So in the 7th verse, this prayer that he makes to the Lord, beginning with Kuvera Atmajo, is only to attain more and more pure love for the Lord. He's not wanting anything else. Okay, so then he says, Bada Murtyaiva Yadvad, by you in your form as a baby tied with a rope to a wooden grinding mortar. So this is what he's meditating on, infancy of Krishna, who's tied up by his mother to a mortar. A mortar is the thing that you grind grains in, or you crush or vegetable oil, seeds, and so forth on the farm. And so his mother ties him to that heavy, very heavy mortar, so he can't go away and do any more mischief. So, in spite of his being bound up with ropes by Mother Yasoda, and his body is a divine body, it's a transcendental divine body, it's not a material body. So he becomes very mischievous again. She thinks that he's secure now, he won't cause any more trouble. But now he begins to move with the mortar, which is extremely heavy, and he comes up to two trees. They're called Yamala Arjuna trees. They're very tall trees in the compound of Nanda Maharaj. And he walks through them and drags the mortar behind him with such strength that those two gigantic trees fall down. And they crash on the ground. If you ever see a big tree fall down, in fact, at one time I had to call a tree expert to cut down two trees that were beginning to rot, and they were hazardous. So there were very tall trees like these trees out here, even bigger. And when he cut them in such a way that they fell, it was like frightening. They made such a loud noise, and there were such long trees. Oh, fortunately, he made them fall in an area where they wouldn't hit anything. But when they hit the ground, it was like an earthquake. So that's what happened to Krishna. Those were two very, very tall trees. It fell down, and it happened that in previous time, there were two sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nalakuvara, and Kuvera is very, very wealthy. He's the banker and the treasurer of the Devas, so he handles the incredible wealth of the Devas. So that is much greater wealth than anybody could ever imagine on our planet, at least. And what usually happens when you have sons of a very, very rich man, they become degraded because they're born with a silver spoon in the mouth, as they say in English, all the amenities. So what happened, they became addicted to bad habits, womanizing and getting intoxicated and so forth. And they were enjoying in a pool of fresh water with these beautiful damsels, and they were all naked. And all of a sudden, Narada Muni comes by, and he sees, and as soon as the ladies saw him, they immediately covered their nakedness. But the two boys were so drunk, so intoxicated, they just stood there naked, looking at Narada Muni. So that's an extremely, disrespectful thing to do. So Narada Muni cursed them to become trees. Now this has a lot of significance to it, because when you have lusty people, and there's so many lusty people today, engaged in all kinds of illicit sexual activities, and you read about it every day in the newspapers, you see it in the movies, you hear about it in novels and magazines, everywhere. It's all omnipresent now in this culture all over the world, whether it's Russia or Europe or the United States or Australia or China. This is going on. And in fact, just recently, a very famous Chinese tennis player, lady, complained that she was violated by one of the leaders of China. And lo and behold, she disappeared. They're still looking for her now. China's a dangerous place. As soon as you criticize the politicians or the government, people disappear. The same thing happened in Chile when General Pinochet was the president of Chile. Anybody who protested against his totalitarian rule of the country, they got a free flight on a Boeing jet, which flew into the Atlantic Ocean, and lo and behold, they pushed them out, and no one's ever seen them again. So this was Pinochet's way of reducing the complaints against him. He would answer the complaints by inviting someone to get a free ride on a jet, right? Unfortunately, it's true, unfortunately. So, this lusty behavior was very insulting. It's sinful. There are 4 pillars of sin, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. So they were doing probably all of them, and they insulted Narada Muni, who's a pure saint. So he cursed him, but he's a saint. He's the greatest saint in the world today. He's still present today. And so, but his curse is actually a benediction. So they became 2 Yamala Arjuna trees, but in the compound of Nanda Maharaj, and which means that sometime in the future, Krishna is going to come, and this pastime of knocking down these 2 trees will take place, and the 2 boys will be liberated, which is what happened. So they're liberated, but they're liberated and have direct darshan of Krishna. And this is what Satyavata Muni wants, right? He's praying for it. He's yearning for it. He's focused on it. And he's saying, look, you gave your darshan to these 2 very sinful boys, but their only credit was that they were blessed by Narada Muni. Actually, they were cursed, but the curse was actually a blessing, because they were cursed to stay anchored to the ground for maybe 60,000 years, waiting for Krishna to come and knock them down. And when they were knocked down, they were able to have direct darshan of the Lord, which is what Satyavata Muni wants. So this illustrates the incomparable fortune of these 2 boys, that they got in the form that they were knocked down as trees, and then they reassumed their forms as humans, as demigods actually, and they got Shakshat Darshana. They were able to see the transcendental form of the Lord. And also, they were touched by the Lord, because he had to knock down the trees, so he actually touched the 2 trees. So they were personally touching this divine bodily form of Krishna's while he was dragging the mortar between the 2 trees. So Satyavata Muni said, look, I'm not as bad as these guys, I'm your devotee. I don't go walk around naked with pretty women. But look at what benediction you gave to these 2 boys. So, please let me have the same benediction. Right? That's what he's saying here. So what's being said is not only they were liberated from their imprisonment in the body of trees, but they were also awarded pure love for Krishna by seeing the Lord. And anyone who sees the Lord is overwhelmed by his beauty, and they immediately develop an attraction to him. Just like even in this world, there's a verse that says that everyone has Krishna consciousness in their heart, because we were originally with Krishna, but we walked away. So it's inherent in us that we have an attraction to Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunai Shavanadi Sudha Chitta Koraya Idai. Says a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that says that there's eternal love for Krishna in the heart of every living entity. It's natural. Just like a boy grows up and becomes a teenager, and a girl grows up and becomes a teenager, and all of a sudden there's this boy-girl attraction, right? Now, you don't have to be taught to be for a boy to be attracted to a girl, or a girl to be attracted to a boy. It's natural. It's ingrained in the actual, let's say, psyche of the male and the female to be attracted to each other. So in the same way, but in a more significant way, attraction to Krishna is already there in our heart because we were originally with Krishna, but for some crazy reason we walked away from it. But love for Krishna is a natural part of a human being. It just has to be awakened. So therefore, it says that Tvaya mochito bhakti bhajo krito cha. You delivered these two boys from the curse of Narada and made them into great devotees, Krishna. In a state of being bound, you yourself were bound up with this rope, but you were able to liberate us. Although you're bound up, we were bound up, but you liberated us. And not only we were free from the curse of Narada Muni, but we were completely liberated from material existence. And on top of all that, you gave us prema bhakti, or pure love, for you. So you made both of us to take shelter in bhakti, or pure devotion, as the supreme goal. So this is profound. Two boys who didn't deserve any of this, but because they came in contact for a very short time with Narada Muni, who curses them, but the curse is actually the greatest benediction, because in the future they will meet Krishna, Krishna will touch them, and give them this very, very rare thing of Bhagavat Darshan, to be able to see him and be touched by him. And immediately they became lovers of the Lord and completely dedicated to the Lord. There are many, many other examples of this. Like, for example, Kubja, the hunchback lady, she received the benediction of being touched and hugged by Krishna. And her hunchback was healed. She became a very beautiful woman, where before she was very ugly and had a deformed body. And she developed, at first, lust for the Lord because he's so handsome, and now she became beautiful. But by hug, by coming in contact with Krishna, who touched her, she became fully infused with love, pure love for Krishna. See? Or Dhruva Maharaj, when after going through 6 months of severe tapasya, he actually was able to see Lord Narayana or Krishna, and he's stunned and can't even say a word. So Krishna touches his head with his conch shell held in his hand, and immediately the boy is illuminated with transcendental knowledge and begins to recite beautiful prayers glorifying the Lord and full of love and devotion. So anyone who comes in contact with Krishna will completely be transformed by the mercy of the Lord. So Satyavrata Muni is saying, please do this for me also. Please let this pure love, prema, sprout up in my heart. And this is my most cherished goal. And in the same way that you helped, you blessed the two sons of Kuvera, do the same thing for me. And Krishna says to him, well, because you have sprouted this prema for me, which was your most supremely cherished goal, and has now fully arisen in both of you boys, from this ecstatic mood, you will never take birth in the material world again. So this is the highest benediction a person can receive, and they're getting it. And Satyavrata Muni is saying, please let me do that for me too. This is what I really want. I don't want anything else. Okay, so, and this is explained more in depth in even more explanation in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, 10th chapter, beginning with verse 37, which says, O Supreme God, Krishna, we are always servants of your servants, especially of Narada Muni. Now give us permission to leave for our home. It is by the grace and mercy of Narada Muni that we have been able to see you face to face. So this is after they're liberated from the form of the trees, and now they're giving full credit to Narada Muni, a pure devotee of Krishna, who simply by a very short connection to him, they received this greatest mercy of all, being able to meet Krishna in the future and see him and be touched by him. And so then they say, and then Prabhupada writes in the purport, unless delivered or blessed by a devotee, one cannot realize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that's a fact. Unless one gets the mercy of a devotee, one cannot understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaye. According to this verse, Bhagavad Gita 7.3, there are so many siddhas or yogis. Siddhas are mystic yogis who have attained the perfection of 8 siddhis, or 8 mystical powers, different powers. Or yogis who also attain tremendous powers by performing austerities and so forth. So the siddhas are yogis who have attained these powers. So, but even they cannot understand Krishna. Instead, they misunderstand him. But if one takes shelter of a devotee descending from the parampara system of Narada Muni, and what is that parampara system? Swayambhur, Narada, Sambhu, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlada, Janaka, Bhisma, and then there's Bali Maharaj, there's Yamaraj, and there's Sukadev Goswami. These are the 12 Mahajans, great authorities of Krishna. And this is from a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20. So if we take shelter of a person who's in the disciplic succession, a devotee in the disciplic succession coming through these 12 unparalleled Mahajans, then one can understand who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, the Kali Yuga, many pseudo-incarnations are advertised simply for having exhibited some magical performances. But except for persons who are servants of Narada and other servants of Krishna, no one can understand who is God and who is not. This is confirmed by Narottam Das Thakura, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keva. No one is delivered from the material conception of life unless favored by the mercy of a Vaishnava. Others can never understand, neither by speculation nor by any other bodily or mental gymnastics. So that's a very nice verse. Then the next verse says, this is 10:10:38. It says, henceforth may all our words describe your pastimes. So these are the 2 boys, Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva, speaking to Krishna after they've been liberated and right before they're going to go back to where they came from. And they say, henceforth may all our words describe your pastimes. May our ears engage in oral reception of your glories. May our hands, legs, and other senses engage in actions pleasing to you. And may our minds always think of your lotus feet. May our heads offer our obeisances to everything within this world, because all things are also your different forms, and may our eyes see the forms of Vaishnavas who are non-different from you. This is a very beautiful prayer. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, here the process of understanding the Supreme Personality is given. This process is Bhakti Yoga, or the yoga of love and devotion for Krishna. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atmanivedanam. These are the 9 types of devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Hrishikena, Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.170. In other words, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord because he is Hrishikesha, the owner of the senses. And Hrishikena, the owner of the senses. And Hrishikesha, he's the proprietor of the senses, and he is a person who can give benedictions so that one can use the senses properly in understanding him. And then from the Narada Pancharatra, everything, the mind, the body, and all the sense organs, everything, including the mind, the body, and all the sense organs, should be engaged in Krishna's service. This is to be learned from expert devotees like Narada, Sambhu, meaning Brahma, Swayambhu, meaning Brahma, and Sambhu, meaning Lord Shiva. This is the process. We cannot manufacture our own way of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for it is not that everything one manufactures or concocts will lead to understanding God. Such a proposition, yatamat tatapat, is foolish. In other words, whatever you think, that is the truth. No, it's not a fact. Krishna says, Bhaktyaham ekaya grahaya. Only by executing the activities of bhakti can one understand me. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.14.21. This is called anukulyena krishnada silanam, remaining engaged favorably in the service of the Lord. Then the next verse 10.10.39 says, Sukadeva Goswami continued, the 2 young demigods thus offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Sri Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, is the master of all and was certainly Gokuleshwara, the supreme controller of Gokula, the spiritual world, the master of Gokula, he was bound to the wooden mortar by the ropes of the gopis, and therefore, smiling widely, he spoke to the sons of Kuvera the following words. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, Krishna was smiling because he was thinking to himself, these 2 young demigods fell from the higher planetary system to this planet, and I have delivered them from the bondage of standing for a long time as trees. But as for me, I am bound by the ropes of the gopis, and am subject to their chastisements. So we see Krishna is tied up. He's under the control, let's say, of the gopis, especially his mother, who's a gopi also. But he is liberating the 2 sons of Kuvera who were imprisoned in the bodies of trees, gigantic trees. So there seems to be an irony there. He's bound up, but he freed them. And then it says, in other words, Krishna submits to being chastised and bound by the gopis because of pure love and affection, worthy of being praised by a devotee in so many ways. So, therefore, that this is an extraordinary thing, that God subordinates himself to his devotees and deigns to be tied up and taken prisoner by them. It's only because of their pure love for him. And then the next one, 10.10.40, says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the great saint Narada Muni is very merciful. By his curse, he showed the greatest favor to both of you, meaning the sons of Kuvera, who were mad or crazy after material opulence and who had thus become blind. Although you fell from the higher planet Swargaloka and became trees, you were most favored by him. I knew of all these incidents from the very beginning. So this is Krishna speaking to the 2 boys. So without the mercy of a genuine, pure devotee like Narada Muni, one has no possibility of understanding Krishna, not even understanding a little bit about Krishna. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, it is now confirmed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, that the curse of a devotee is also to be regarded as mercy. As Krishna, God is all good. A Vaishnava is also all good. Whatever he does is good for everyone. This is explained in the following verses. Hare Krishna. So, if we're fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee of Krishna, and we have all, because we met Srila Prabhupada through his books, through his Guru Puja, through following his instructions, which are non-different than Krishna's instructions. So we all have a chance of building up this relationship with Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. So then it says that of course, Krishna is speaking to the two boys, Nalakuvira and Manigriva, and he's saying, the most desired thing that you have prayed for is Parama Bhava, or the supreme transcendental feeling of affection for the Lord. And you both have fully developed this prema for me, this love for me. Therefore, you will never again experience bhava, the repeated birth and death, the samsara, in the material world, nor will you feel the miseries of samsara even while living here. Okay. So then he says, then Satyavata Muni says, hey Damodara, Krishna is the ultimate exclusive shelter or his lotus feet are the shelter for everyone from the ravages of Maya and the Kali Yuga. And their only desire is to be able to see Krishna's beautiful form and see it through the eyes of prema bhakti, pure love and devotion for the Lord. So they're asking, please bestow this. Satyavata Muni now is asking, please bestow this on me in a lavish way. Please give in a very, very, with profusion and intensity, this vision of you that I can always cherish in my heart. So this is some of the concluding points. So you granted prema bhakti, tata prema bhaktim swakam me prayacha. In the same way, you granted prema bhakti to the two sons of Kuvera without any cause. They didn't deserve it, but still you gave it to them because Narada Muni blessed them with this curse. So please profusely give me your prema bhakti also in the same way. And then it says prayacha or yacha means please give, and the prefix pra indicates prakarshena, or with profusion or intensity. Please give prema bhakti for your beautiful form bound by your mother's robe. So please let me fall in love and devote myself to this wonderful form of yours as Bala Gopal or Damodar, and bless me in the same way that you blessed these two boys. Namokshe graho mesti Damodareha. O Lord Damodar, I only long for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation. Shri Krishna may ask, why are you insisting on prema bhakti over moksha, over liberation? And Sri Satyavata Muni answer is, Neti, no thank you. Other than iha, this goal of prema bhakti, I have no eagerness for any other type of liberation or moksha. So Sri Satyavata Muni explains, I only insist on attaining this prema bhakti. I do not want to accept moksha or anything else. So this is extraordinary, but it just shows the intensity of love for Krishna one can attain by coming closer and closer to the Lord through devotional service. Okay, until you actually attract his attention, and then he will choose you to be the recipient of his transcendental mercy. So now the last verse, which says, Namaste studamne spuradipti damne tradiyo dayarata Vishwasadamne, Namo Radhikayai, Twadiyai Priyayai, Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam. So this is a nice verse that concludes the Damodarastakam. It says, O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliant, effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited, I humbly bow down to your most beloved servant, Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. So this is a nice way to conclude because it's glorification of the Lord. So now at the conclusion of the prayer of the Damodarastakam, in order to summarize the presentation of topics that are being prayed for and also to arouse the attributes of bhakti, obeisances are given separately unto Bhagavan's unique binding. So he's paying obeisance to the scene of Krishna being tied to the mortar and a prisoner of Mother Yasoda. She's imprisoned him in her heart of love. And this has, in a sense, melted Krishna's feelings to a point of wanting to reciprocate with her, although it's almost impossible because her intensity of love is so great for him. So, then it says that I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. So, anytime we approach Krishna, it's a gradual approach. We don't go directly. We have to go through first the mercy of the Guru, Siksha and Diksha Gurus, and especially the Diksha Guru, who is let's say, they have gone through the process themselves of seeing Krishna, and now they're actually seeing Krishna. It's a very rare thing, and so therefore Satyavati Muni is concluding his presentation of the topics that are being prayed for. First of all, Krishna's unique binding and bodily limbs and associates, etc., which arouse bhakti in him. So when you see the devotees chanting Hare Krishna in ecstasy, you taste the prasadam, and you see the beautiful limbs and some of the body parts of Krishna's transcendental body. All that excites these attachment to the Lord and affection for the Lord. So then he starts with his obeisances. Namaste Stu, with the extraordinary rope binding around Krishna's waist. He pays homage to them. And then the rope is the source or shelter of a splendorous effulgence. Damne spura dipti damne. Well, anything that has touched Krishna is effulgent and very bright because of coming in contact with Krishna's body. So one gradually approaches the Lord. They don't go right away to the Lord. Okay, next frame. So then, Tvadiyo darayata yishvasya damne. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. So when Krishna expands himself as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, his belly button sprouts a stem of a mango. I'm sorry. Of a lotus flower, and the whole universe is in the stem of the lotus flower, and on the whorl or the top of the lotus flower is Lord Brahma. He appears as the mental child of the Lord. There's no seminal generation of Brahma. Krishna produces him himself without the help of Lakshmi. And then, so he says, I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. Yes, because the lotus flower that Brahma is sitting on, the stem is coming from the belly of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So just imagine how big Garbhodakshay Vishnu must be. Next, Sri Satyavrata Muni is offering obeisances to Krishna's belly, which manifested the beauty of Vatsalya Lila and other pastimes with his mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj and so forth. So, yeah, the whole universe is manifest inside the body of Krishna. And so it says, your belly is the basis of the entire universe, moving and non-moving. 14 planetary systems arose from your navel in the center of your belly, which was bound by Mother Yasoda. And twice Krishna showed his universal form to Mother Yasoda. So once when she forced him to open his mouth because Balaram and some of the other gopis protested that Krishna was eating dirt. So she forced him to open his mouth. And another time also, she also looked into the depth of his throat and she saw the entire universe. So 2 times she saw the universal form of Krishna. Okay, so next. So then the final, now we're almost at the end. Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Srimati Radharani. Sri Satyavrata Muni understands that only by the mercy of Krishna's loved ones, can he attain his goal of prema bhakti, or pure love for Krishna. So he offers his obeisances to Krishna's most beloved, Tvadiya Priyaya, Srimati Radharani, or Radhika, Namo Radhikaya. Offering obeisances to Sri Radhika, Sri Satyavrata Muni actually conveys his obeisances to all the gopis. She is simply your Nitya Priya, your eternal affectionate one, and vice versa. You are her eternal affectionate one. Next. And then the final line, Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Sri Satyavrata Muni ends his prayers with the pastimes of Srimati Radhika with Krishna, such as Rasa Lila, which are most worshipful. Madhurena Sam Apayat Devaya indicates that obeisances are offered unto Krishna, who is Lokatara, supernatural, divine, and transcendental, and Ananta Lila certainly refers to all of Sri Krishna's pastimes in Goloka as well. So, to understand a little bit about Radha and Krishna's relationship, which is extremely confidential and very, very infused with love and devotion. But people shouldn't hear about this until they've been purified first by reading the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 8, it says, when Krishna left the Rasa Lila dance, the gopis became very morose. And when they were grieving, Krishna reappeared dressed in yellow garments. Wearing a flower garland and smiling, he was attractive even to Cupid. In this way, Krishna appeared among the gopis. Then the next verse says, each and every devotee has a certain type of transcendental mellow or relishable relationship with Krishna. But in all transcendental relationships, the devotee is the worshipper, Ashraya, and Krishna is the object of worship, Vishaya. Let Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, be glorified by virtue of his expanding, attractive features. He subjugated the gopis named Taraka and Pali and absorbed the minds of Shama and Lalita. He is the most attractive lover of Srimati Radharani and is the reservoir of pleasure for devotees in all transcendental mellows. So that's the unique position of Srimati Radharani. And then Prabhupada says, everyone is a particular transcendental mellow by which he loves and serves Krishna. Krishna is the most attractive feature for every kind of devotee. He is therefore called Akhila Rasamrita Murti, or the transcendental form of attraction for all kinds of devotees, whereas whether devotee be in the Samarasa, Santarasa, Dasarasa, Sakyarasa, Vatsalyarasa, or Madhura Rasa. This is the opening verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay, so Krishna is the cynosure, or the center of all attraction for the devotees. They have no interest of or outside Krishna. And then it says, Krishna is all attractive for devotees in all mellows because he is the personification of the conjugal mellow. Krishna is attractive not only to all devotees, but to himself as well. My dear friends, just see how Sri Krishna is enjoying the season of spring. With the gopis embracing each of his limbs, he is a little amras, love personified. Sorry. And it says, with his transcendental pastimes, he enlivens all the gopis and the entire creation. With his soft, bluish-black arms and legs, which resemble blue lotus flowers, he has created a festival for Cupid. So this is a verse from the Gita Govinda. And then it says, he also attracts Narayana, who is the incarnation of Sankarsana and the husband of the goddess of fortune. He attracts not only Narayana, but also all women headed by the goddess of fortune, the consort of Narayana, Lakshmi Devi. And then it says, addressing Krishna and Arjuna, Lord Mahavishnu, the Mahapurusha, said, I wanted to see both of you, and therefore I have kidnapped the sons of the Brahmana here and brought them here. Both of you have appeared in the material world to reestablish religious principles, and you have both appeared here with all your potencies. After killing all the demons, please quickly return to the spiritual world. So this quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 89th Chapter, 58th verse, concerning Krishna's endeavor to take Arjuna beyond the material universe when Arjuna was searching for the sons of a Brahmana. Lord Mahavishnu, who is situated beyond this material world, was also attracted by the bodily features of Krishna. Mahavishnu had actually stolen the sons of the Brahmana in Dwarka so that Krishna and Arjuna would come to visit him. This verse is quoted to show that Krishna is so attractive that he attracts Mahavishnu. And then it says, O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for her centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how this serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. So this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 16th Chapter, 36th verse, spoken by the wives of the Kaliya serpent. Lord Krishna's sweetness is so attractive that it steals away his own mind. Thus, even he wants to embrace himself. And then that pastime is is quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Lalita Madhava book that he wrote. Upon seeing his own reflection in a bejeweled pillar of his Dwarka palace, Krishna desired to embrace it. Alas, I have never seen such a person before who is he. Just by seeing him, I have become eager to embrace him, exactly like Srimati Radharani. Okay. So, in this section, the Madhya Lila, chapter 8, from verse 151 onward, Ramananda Rai is speaking to Lord Chaitanya and is explaining the science of Krishna. The science of Krishna. He says, my Lord, I have briefly explained the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, let me describe the position of Srimati Radharani. Krishna has unlimited potencies, which can be divided into three main parts. These are the spiritual potency, the material potency, and the marginal potency, which is known as the living entities. In other words, these are all potencies or energies of God, internal, external, and marginal. But the internal potency is the Lord's personal energy and stands over the other two. The original potency of Lord Vishnu is superior or spiritual, and the living entities actually belong to that superior energy. But there is another energy called the material energy, and this third energy is full of ignorance. This is a quote from the Vishnu Purana. Originally, Lord Krishna is Satchitananda Vigraha, the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore, his personal potency, the internal potency, has three different forms. Hiladini is his aspect of bliss, Sandini of eternal existence, and Samvit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. My dear Lord, you are the transcendental reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Your pleasure potency, existence potency, and knowledge potency are actually all one internal spiritual potency. The conditioned soul, although actually spiritual, sometimes experiences pleasure, sometimes pain, and sometimes a mixture of pain and pleasure. This is due to his being touched by matter. But because you are above all material qualities, these are not found in you. Your superior spiritual potency is completely transcendental, and for you there is no such thing as relative pleasure, and mixed with pain, or pain itself. This is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana. The potency called Hiladini gives Krishna transcendental pleasure. Through this pleasure potency, Krishna personally tastes all spiritual pleasure. Lord Krishna tastes all kinds of transcendental happiness, although he himself is happiness personified. The pleasure relished by his pure devotees is also manifested by his pleasure potency. The most essential part of this pleasure potency is love for Godhead, prema. Consequently, the explanation of love of Godhead is also a transcendental mellow, full of pleasure. The essential part of love of Godhead is called Mahabhava, transcendental ecstasy, and that ecstasy is represented by Srimati Radharani. Among the gopis of Vrindavana, Srimati Radharani and another gopi are considered chief, but when we compare the gopis, it appears that Srimati Radharani is most important because her real feature expresses the highest ecstasy of love. The ecstasy of love experienced by the other gopis cannot be compared to that of Srimati Radharani. The body of Srimati Radharani is a veritable transformation of love of Godhead. She is the dearmost friend of Krishna, and this is known throughout the world. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure, and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Hiladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued with and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Okay, so you're getting a little taste. This goes on for pages and pages, glorifying Radha and Krishna's relationship in Vrindavan and how it all fits together with Goloka and Vaikuntha. So you can read this Madhya Lila 8th chapter to get the full benefit of what's being explained here. So we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? No questions? There must be some question. Ask a question.
Why there is a qualification
It's not just reading. You have to hear it also. Reading and hearing, both. It's not that you read one section and you hear a section. You have to hear every day and read also and discuss. So when you do that, then you become experienced in Krishna consciousness, and your attachment to the material world is seriously curtailed and nullified if you do it on a regular basis. So that also, I don't have it here. Oh, wait a minute, let me see. No. Yeah, anyway, this hearing is more effective than reading because you get a chance to ask questions, and it's spoken by people who have long experience in Krishna consciousness, so they can bring out many of they can answer your questions, let's put it like that. And if they don't answer it right away, they'll research it and come back to you. So that's why hearing is even more important than reading. Reading is good, but hearing is better. So the Bhagavatam should be heard every day in a systematic way. And then our attraction to the material world is eventually purified. And we see the whole world as part and parcel of Krishna. We don't see it separate from Krishna. Right now, the material way of looking things is minus Krishna all the time. That's why in schools, they say, well, we don't talk about God here. We just talk about science, right? So that is purposefully misleading people because as we showed this morning, what this so-called science is a whole bunch of speculation, most of it. And when it comes to understanding the origin of the universe and fundamental questions like that, they're not able to answer except with made-up stories that they make up themselves that have no proof behind them. So science is you have a hunch, you pursue the hunch by doing experiments, and when your experiments validate what your hunch was, then it becomes a scientific theory. But when you talk about the Big Bang, there's no experiment that was ever done to substantiate that such a thing happened. So you weren't here this morning, but we showed a video, a so-called scientific video of the explanation of the Big Bang. The whole thing is just speculation. There's no science involved. None of the points that they made, especially, and they admit also halfway through their video that whatever they said about the origin of the universe is not verified. So then why are they showing it? If it's not verified, it's not scientific. Scientific theory only happens when you make a hunch or you make a guess, and then you perform experiments, and the experiments prove that what you thought is true, right? But they never made an experiment to see if the world started with a Big Bang. I mean, how could they do it anyway? They would die right away with such an experiment. It's like experimenting the atomic bomb. It's extremely dangerous, being close to an atomic bomb explosion, right? They did it in Nevada, and the residents of Nevada started dying of cancer for about 20 years, 20, 30 years. So, but a Big Bang, the way they explain it, in less than a second, it expands hundreds and thousands of miles. So it would destroy everyone in the vicinity. So they come up with theories that are impossible to prove through experiment. So that's not science, that's science fiction. So today, if you ask a scientist, how did this world start? They would say, well, Big Bang. That's the only theory they have. They don't have any other theory. And it's not even a theory. It's just, it's fantasy. It's like Harry Potter, you know. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.